Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ted, and today I'm joined by
Scott Garibay.
And today we're talking about lethality in your tabletop role-playing games. All right, jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy. So today we're getting into a touchy subject for some, and that's lethality in tabletop role-playing games. Now, I have played in games that DMs were like, battle line is drawn, it's kill or be killed, and I've played in games where it's like, it's teddy bears and unicorns, and there's no way to die, and whatever have you.
It's pretty frequent. Yeah, I see it a lot too. Yep.
And it kind of begs the question of, like, what is a good way to do it, and like literally in one of your recent games that you ran for us, you've been like, all right, like there's no in-game conversation. You're like, you be careful here because you can die. So how do you properly warn players so that they can be aware that they're entering these kind of like lethal zones?
Yeah.
When is a good time to really say, all right, people can die?
Right. So one, I think that's the key is so let's talk about a couple things. So one, you run a game that is going on 20 or 30 sessions. I run games that are 3, 5, 7.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things is I'm a lot more comfortable with lethality than I think you are.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is I can be. Because if you miss the last 2 or 3 sessions of a 5-session game, that might be upsetting. But I'm telling you right now, there are going to be tears shed when Asen dies. There's no two ways about it.
Well, on the flip side of that, with running games for as long as we currently have, like I'm at session 31 or 32 that I'll be running, this evening, and it's a situation where I can't cause a lasting effect. I have to kill Nate and David at the same time in order to stop someone from coming back to life.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Nate's character literally has the ability to be like, yeah, character died a century ago.
Revivify.
No. Revivify is a minute.
Yeah.
Resurrection, which Nate has access to, literally a century.
Yeah.
Asen could die now, and Asen and Arbalason could wait 75 years to find your spirit and be like, you know what? I miss Asen.
Boop. Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You're back to life.
So you're absolutely right. I love lethality in games, and here's the answer. So one, you choose a moment. So one, lethality has to be contained to very specific points within your game, and never, ever more than 10% of your game, in my opinion. So what you do is, in my opinion, you take your player characters knowingly into a position where you're saying, okay, these are not, I call them breakers. It comes from Sword Art Online. But breakers are villains who are put here specifically with the purpose of putting the life of these player characters in jeopardy.
Risk. Okay.
Exactly. And so you're aware when you put them onto the board. And then you choose a new and unique way each time to tell them, okay, one, you show them, like you do whatever you need to as far as you show this villain killing a henchman of one of the player characters and showing their power, right? So you have to.
So there were 2 examples that I can easily recall from a previous conversation we had, which led to this particular topic.
Yeah.
Oh no, brought to this topic.
Yeah.
Now, number 1, there was the scene in the bar where, was it Doc Holliday?
Yes, in Gamma World game, right?
Yeah, both of these are examples from the Gamma World game.
Absolutely.
Now, I can recall the conversation where you specifically spelled out
he only had shots.
Exactly, that he was gunning for live, and in that situation, I was like, all right, there is no reason why I want to take part in this. There was no gain for me to be had.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'm going to not take part. Like, there's no reason for me to risk my life for this possibility of no gain. On the flip side of that, we were same game. We were encountering Tau. Now, Tau are a
Warhammer,
Warhammer
Warhammer 40K army, right?
Yes, and I knew them from my time playing Warhammer 40K, and my brain was like, okay, well, these are generally weaker. I'm already wearing Space Marine armor, and you know, in the distance, one of their war cannons came online,
Yep.
and I don't recall anything that was saying you should run or like you have to take this thing down or this is going to happen. I don't know
Your
whether
memory is incredibly short, my good man.
no
So
no
I
no
will, I
no
will,
no
I
no
will
no. I
remind you.
mean,
Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
I don't. I mean, I'm not saying you didn't say it. What I'm saying is I did not pay attention well
It
enough,
didn't catch.
or
Yeah.
it didn't register that this is going to happen, and literally it drew the situation of, all right, I'm going to roll a d4. The hit is going to happen, and whoever's number it lands on, that character is just dead, and that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like I was literally like,
So let me clarify a couple
Mhm.
things. So one, you guys, you were actually where the physical Liberty Bell is. And it's a building, and I'm aware of that building, okay?
Right.
Because I've been there physically,
Mhm.
right? You guys were in the middle of it, and I said you guys are now surrounded, and you see, and when you look out, there's just dust from all the people who you're surrounded by, right? And I told you there's 100 people around you. That to me is clue one. There's 100 people around you. You can't even see an escape path. Okay. Then what happened beyond that was I then had the Riders of Rohan literally ride in, circle around, break through the enemies around you, and say, "Hey, you guys, you're surrounded. Here are horses for each of you, for me to carry you, for us to take you away from this position." And all of you said, "I'm going to stay." All of us are staying surrounded in this surrounded position. Here's the last part. I would never say, I'm going to roll a 1d4 and kill one of your player characters. I said, there's the four of you and there's your two allies. So it was a 1d6 with with 1/3 chance of an NPC dying.
okay.
So that was the full sweep. But you're absolutely right. I was like, when this cannon goes off, it's going to be 30d8. Each of your characters can take 68. This is virtually it's a kill. It's
Right.
an absolute kill. And the
So
reason why I felt comfortable bringing that lethality to the game was I felt I had given more than enough warning, and that's why
so
I felt
and
comfortable
and
triggering it.
I literally I rethought and replayed what transpired, and there's a number of times where I've had to a situation comes up in an RPG, and I question, well, did I make the right move here? And there's been a number of times where players make stupid choices, and like Nerdarchy is no, we're not immune to this thing, and literally in the early days of Dave's game, our characters are like 12th, 13th level at this point in time, but when we were 6th level, like half the group was ready to take on an Empyrean inside his floating fortress,
Yeah.
and him having an army of 100 newly created slaves.
Well, see, I guess my take on it is, and here's another reason why I'm so comfortable with lethality in these games, is to me, I don't see the punishment as a punishment. If your character dies, you get to create a new character. Who doesn't like creating new characters? In addition to that, I don't see staying and trying to fight against overwhelming odds as a stupid choice. I feel I would rephrase it as an epic choice. And one of the reasons why I say that is I fully get when a character. So one, I will tell you right now, I honor the 20, and this is critical.
Mm-hmm.
If you roll a 20, you're going to win. Period. You're going to succeed. I don't care what any of the other numbers. I honor the 20, which means that you always have a 5% chance of succeeding in any crazy thing you try.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's 19 points on that die that can kill you. And to me, that's how you get stories that are told for a lifetime, and I have them. Like Asen has ridden beholders like broncos, and
yeah, and
yeah,
that's the stuff that
yeah,
we actually were literally talking about that earlier
yeah.
today. So I look at that scene with the towel, and perhaps I look at that as like, okay, well, you're surrounded, there is no way out, and perhaps I blanked on the, well, here's a way out, so that you're not surrounded. So I'm like, well, perhaps since three of us are wearing, this
Space Marine armor. You're
incredibly
right. Yeah.
powerful armor, we can withstand their guns, and we can hold them off or take them down, or give them enough losses that they are going to retreat. It was a wrong choice. And my nephew, he lost his
Yeah.
guy,
He took the
and
brunt of it.
and he took it well, and he was
Yeah.
ready to bring in another character.
And honestly, I have to say, I know that seems like a wrong choice, but I actually think that David may be actually more attracted to the hobby knowing that character death can happen than if he had never experienced it.
I can tell you, he handled his first character death much better than I did.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, what did you do on your first character?
I was distraught. Like, I was either in tears or ready to be in tears, and I
Well,
was much
I'll tell
older
you
than
right
he
now,
is.
if you watch that video, he was upset. He kept it down.
He
Like,
was,
he
was certainly upset.
Yeah.
He was like, what?
Yeah. And a little torqued, right? And even now, when I look back at it, there's things I would have changed because I kept asking him, "Do you want me to roll 30d6 or do you want me to roll 10 and times it by 3?" And it was so clear he did not care, and I should have caught on that,
Right.
But it's really interesting, yeah. But lethality is a really it's a really interesting subject, and honestly, I truly believe DMs should definitely go to a lethality model, which is warning, lethality, and that should be coming up in your games every 3 games at least. And honestly, I feel like a good dungeon master needs to kill a player character at least every 5 sessions, or maybe you could stretch that out to 10. But you need, if we're modeling a deity, deities have wrath, right? Yeah.
So, every game is different. I have sessions where I do plan harder encounters. I'm never seeking blood, and I'm never going to be like, all right, well, I'm putting something in that is angled towards this type of effect. Maybe I should. There's only 4 player characters tonight. Maybe I should try and see if I can
Who you can kill.
obliterate
Yeah,
one.
exactly. Yes.
And literally, like, we're dealing with the power level that you guys are at. Like,
Oh yeah,
it
with
is
resurrection.
no, I mean beyond that. Like, literally, the opponents that you guys are facing, I could literally deliver attacks that would have the ability that it obliterates souls.
Sure, yeah.
So that it's like, all right, well, yeah, you're dead, and there's no resurrection.
Oof.
So like,
Yeah.
there's nothing that in the scope of D&D, while that might be harder than whatever's in the monster manual, it's not out of canon for what D&D has done over the years.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. That's really interesting. You're absolutely right. And so I think lethality is a really great part of the hobby. It's one of the main reasons I play. I'm always trying to set up a situation where I feel I have legitimately warned those people. They have made a conscious choice. And when we roll that die, it matters. That's where you're trying to aim toward. I feel like I genuinely care about story. And I would say even beyond that,
well,
lethality is absolute. Death is part of any good story.
well, what I was getting.
In fact, I would challenge you to realize I'm not sure you can tell a good story without death.
Oh, I'm certain you can.
That's interesting.
I'm certain that you can tell stories where player characters do naught but kidnap, take hostage, put into service or servitude, and
it's still
it's
a
still a great story. How triumphant is the paladin who fights his way into the villain's lair, and instead of engaging in sword to sword combat, engages on the charismatic level and convinces the villain he's wrong.
I hear you. Yeah. Okay. I
So-
understand where you're coming from. My only point there, why I jumped in, was I just didn't want people to think that lethality was tied to less story, because I truly believe it's tied to
I wasn't going
a lot
there.
of story.
I
Go
was
ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
trying to nicely say, do you care about killing characters, or do you care about frou and nice
There you go.
just to do story and get this going? They do not have to be linked. But there's a great way to continue this conversation, and that's down in the comments. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And also, please consider going over to nerdarchy.com. There's a ton of great writers over there. Doug Vahoick, Ty Johnson, Megan Miller, Joshua Brinkley, myself. just a lot of great writers over there. Scott, there's a ton. Really,
Bill.
really good one. Yeah, and Bill. And there's just more and more great articles over there all the time, dealing with everything from postmodernism to your best barbarian build. It's awesome. Check it out.
So until next time, stay nerdy.